Hi, my name is Kate, and today as part of the ANLC scholarship, I'm going to share a bit about my adoption story. I was born in Guangxi, China in May 2000. Like all other adoptions in China, mine was a closed one. I was found one morning when I was about a week old, lying just outside the orphanage's front steps. I don't know my birth parents, and so I can only speculate, but in China there's a saying called fang lao, which means to raise a son in order to take care of you in your old age. So when I was born, China still had its one-child policy, and that in combination with a lacking social security system and these traditional ideals of filial piety meant that many families felt a need for a son and consequently gave up their daughters, such as myself. I lived at the orphanage for 14 months before being adopted by an American couple, my parents, and being brought to the U.S. Growing up in the U.S., a Chinese girl with white parents, I always was aware that adoption existed and that I was adopted, and that was always just a fact of life. That is a fact. That is my life. My parents never tried to hide the fact. I think that would have been a bit difficult. And I remember when I was little reading picture books about China's one-child policy and going with other adopted Chinese girls to celebrate Chinese New Year through the Families with Children from China program. Or when I was a little bit older in middle school, taking out every book in the library about China and Chinese policies. So I'm really looking back on it now, I'm really grateful for my parents during that time for encouraging my curiosity and never making me feel like it was unnatural or hurtful. And I know that they did their best using the same limited knowledge as me to try to answer questions. In 2015, I went back to China with a group of adopted girls to volunteer at an orphanage together. I learned many things from that trip, including a realization of just how important Chinese language and culture are to me. But there's one particular memory that seared in my mind forever, and that was when I was talking to 3 kids that were about to be adopted into American families. These kids were in elementary school, yet had spent their entire lives living at the orphanage. One of them, a boy of about 8 years old, asked me point blank, "What is it like to be adopted?" And when he asked me that, he had wide eyes full of hope and curiosity, as well as a lot of fear and anxiety. And I didn't hesitate. I told him the first thing that came to my head, which was being adopted is like being reborn. I told him how adoption is the start of a new life, and for me, the start of the only life I've ever known. With adoption comes a new family, new connections, and new opportunities. For me, I feel like the experience of being adopted has shaped my entire life and worldview. So I'm majoring in statistics, and so I often look at it through a statistical lens and ask myself, what are the odds that I was born into one family at the exact right time that my American family was also looking for a child, and that the paperwork stacks between waiting children and expecting parents were able to magically line up and allow us to be placed together. Adoption has been the biggest and best miracle in my life, and every day I'm so thankful to have been raised by the wonderful parents that I was matched with. For me, being able to live the life that I can today with all the unconditional love and opportunities and acceptance, that's already winning the lottery, and it gives me hope that if something this wonderful could happen to me already, then more amazing things can also happen in the future. Adoption gave me 2 families and 2 cultures, and is what sparked my interest in public policy. Living with the knowledge that I exist as a result of government policy has made me viscerally aware of the massive effects policy can have on individual lives, and as I begin studying international relations focusing on East Asia, China, I'm always reminded to never let policy lose its humanity. Through a future career analyzing U.S.-Asia policy, I hope to positively influence the lives of people in both of the countries that I call home. I'm so lucky and so eternally grateful to have been raised by my adoptive family. Sometimes media makes it seem as if adoption is a tragedy, or as if the connection between a mother and a child who is adopted is somehow less certain, less sure. How can you argue with blood, they say. But I'll say, physically, adoption paperwork is much thicker than water. For me, adoption is a source of confidence and makes me feel even more secure in my relationship with my parents. I know my parents, without a doubt, that they wanted me, that they chose me, that they love me. People say that having a blood relationship means that a relationship is given, that is certain and steady. I'm not so sure about that, but I can say that if that's true, then every day that I spend with my adopted family, every success and sadness we share, every experience we undergo together, is all a testament to the strong relationship which we have actively created and shaped, a statement of our commitment to one another, and a promise of our continued love in the future. For the last 3 years, I've been making attempts to search my birth parents. I took 2 DNA tests and have been following up with DNA matches from the area near my orphanage, mainly other Chinese adopted girls. When I tell people this, they often say that I'm being ungrateful and ask if I don't feel sorry to my parents. I turned 18 this week, and I've really been thinking a lot about my relationship with my parents and my birth parents and what the past means as we all go forward. At 18, I'll really have grown up completely without my birth parents. The last time they saw me, I was 8 days old. However, they've also been able to give me a couple great gifts. This life, my ability to exist in this world, this body, which I carry with me wherever I go, and my family. Through the sacrifice of my birth parents, my parents were able to pick up where they left off and give me that support, love, and care that I needed to grow up, and I'm eternally grateful for that. I still have so many questions for my birth parents that I'd like to ask, but mainly I would like to tell them thank you. I'd like to tell them thank you, that I've grown up well and lived happily, and that I wish them the best. Knowing that my parents love me deeply and unconditionally, and that they'll always support me, gives me the strength to do this. I've lived 17 years with my parents, and we've gone through a lot together. And through these experiences, I'm confident enough in the strength of our relationship to be able to explore my past in such a candid way. And I really look forward to see what the future holds for all of us. Thank you for listening.